There we go, so this is it.
Hello my friends and welcome to the channel, and today we're going to be having a look at this. Not at the box of course, but this is going to be a Godox SL150 Mark II, and this is an LED light. This is going to be our budget lighting kit stage 4. As you might know, we had a budget lighting kit number 1, which consisted only of 3 translucent umbrellas with a 200 watt light bulbs. So the total output was only 600 watt. If you haven't seen that video, go ahead and check it out. I'm gonna post a link over here and you can see what results we got from a really cheap budget lighting kit for only $80. The second budget lighting kit that we used to upgrade our initial budget lighting kit was a 500 watt light bulbs, and those light bulbs cost an extra $80, but they were 500 watt instead of 200 watt that came with the kit. If you want to check out that video as well, I'm gonna post it over here. That is really interesting because you can see the difference between having like a really cheap budget lighting kit for only $80 versus an upgrade for an extra $80. And it did make a difference, but I'll leave it up to you to decide whether it's worth upgrading for it or not. The next one was a Godox SL60W, which is considered a budget lighting kit as well, but it's already having some professional aspects to it, so you get a much better light quality, plus you get more control for lighting overall, as you can control the brightness of it. On the regular budget lighting kits you can only have turn it on and off, and this is it. And this is an LED light, which we have tested previously. You can watch the video over here. I'm gonna post it in the link on this corner, and I'll put it in the description as well so you can check it out and see how the 60 watt LED light differ from a 500 watt regular CFL bulb. And we actually tested it versus 2 CFL bulbs, so you get an 1000 watt light output versus only 60 from LED light. But as you might know, LED lights, they're not measured in watts actually, they're measured in luxes, which is another way of measuring the light output. So this is considered to be the measurement for the LED lighting. It's gonna be way brighter than the first 2 budget lighting kits, but the initial price will be a little bit more. And today we're finally gonna be looking at the stage number 4, and this is gonna be this guy right here. This is a Godox SL150 Mark II, and this is a 150 watt LED light. And it has a lot more than a regular SL60W, and we're gonna compare this light versus the other 3 lights that we used in the past. So we're gonna see how much it differs. Of course, this is a much more expensive light, but I still consider it a budget level with a professional grade. Because yes, it does cost over $400. You may not consider it a budget level. I think it's probably like a mid-range versus the most expensive lighting, like let's say aperture lights. This is considered to be really cheap, and let's see what we can get from this light. And if you're first time to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. We're gonna have a lot more cool stuff coming to the channel, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss new videos. And if you find this video helpful, please smash that like button, so it's gonna help me a lot to grow my channel, and appreciate guys all of your support. Thank you very much, and without further ado, let's go get started. Let's go. Alright, there we go. So it's time for some testing, and as we did in our previous videos, we were testing it at the same camera settings, so we're not going to be mix and matching different settings on the camera. This way you can get an actual idea how good this light works. And as we did in our previous videos, we were testing it at the regular aperture 4.0 and the shutter speed at 1/50 and ISO at 200. And the reason why I'm testing it with the aperture of 4.0 is because most budget level DSLR cameras come in kit with the lenses that are only capable of aperture 4.0 unless you buy a more expensive and fast lens, which would probably defeat the purpose of having a budget level lighting kit for it and the budget level camera, because if you decide to spend a lot of money on the lens, well, you might as well spend some money on the camera too. But for the majority, I think everybody who's going to be buying a budget level camera, they're going to come with a 4.0 aperture. This is why we're testing it at this aperture. And 1/50 is the shutter speed that's used on most occasions because you want to have some motion blur. And if you're using it at too low of shutter speed, you're going to get a lot of blur. For example, right now it's 1/50, and when I wave my hand, you can see a little bit of motion blur, but if I use it at a lower shutter speed, like let's say 1/25, you would see a lot more motion blur. Or on another hand, if I use it at a higher shutter speed, it's going to be too quick and you're not going to see any blur at all. And as a tip, most Hollywood movies are shot at 24 frames per second, so they also using that 1/50 shutter speed in most occasions. So we're going to try to stick to that. And also, the reason why I'm using the ISO 200 is because it gives you a lot clearer picture. If you raise your ISO, the more you raise it, the more the camera sensor gets more sensitive and it can take more light, but the picture gets worse because it introduces a lot of noise, what's called grain. And if you look at some pictures that are taken at a dark environment, you can see that there is a lot of grain on those pictures. But when you're looking at the pictures that are taken at the bright sunlight, you see no grain at all. Because if you're using automatic settings, the camera sets the ISO at 100 or less during the daylight, and then you're not going to see any grain. So the picture is going to be really good. But when you're taking video with the budget level camera, and your lens is only capable of opening up to like 4.0 aperture, there is not enough light going through the lenses to reach to the sensor, and this means that your ISO has to be raised up. So in my opinion, when I'm using ISO of 200, I get a really good picture with not much grain, and this is what I'm trying to achieve with my lighting. So today we're going to be having a look if this LED light will let me achieve those settings. So let's go ahead and check it out right now. Okay, there we go. This is an aperture of 4.0, 1/50 shutter speed, and ISO of 200. And I only got this Godox SL150 Mark II right now. It's set at 100% with a 120 centimeters softbox and one translucent curtain over top of it. So as you can see, it is pretty bright and I do get a perfect exposure. It's almost in the middle. So when you're looking on your camera display and you look at the disposure scale, when it's in the middle, it means it's a perfect exposure at the moment. So your aperture, your shutter speed, and your ISO are perfectly matched. So you get a perfect exposure. And you can achieve it with only one Godox SL150 Mark II. So right now the setting is aperture 4.0, 1/50 shutter speed, ISO 200. And the brightness of the LED light is 100%. Let's go ahead and try it out at the 50%. So right now I'm going to change it to 50% and see how it's actually going to perform at the same camera settings. Let's go. So yeah, this is how it looks at the aperture 4.0, shutter speed 1/50 and ISO 200 with the 50% light output from the Godox SL150 Mark II. I think it still gets pretty bright. So it's basically dimmed to the half of the output from the peak brightness, and theoretically it's still more than the Godox SL60W because SL60W only outputs 60 watt and SL150 Mark II outputs 150 watts. So if you set it at a 50%, you still get a 75 watt of light output. And I do think it's true because if you compare side by side peak brightness from Godox SL60W versus 50% from the Godox SL150 Mark II, I think it looks pretty comparable. Of course, when I look at my exposure, it's a little bit on the dark side. It doesn't go too far on that part of the scale, which means I'm still getting enough light output to make a pretty cool video quality from having only a 50% light output. So this is really great. It looks a little bit darker. Some people might prefer having this kind of lighting. I do prefer a little bit brighter, but when you have that option, you can choose between one or another. This is why you want to have that extra light output, so you can actually choose between having a little bit darker scene or you can have a more brighter scene. This gives you flexibility and you can choose between one or another. And just out of curiosity, I want to try it out at only 25% light output and see how it's going to be performing at this brightness. So let's go ahead and check it out right now. There we go. This is how it looks at the same camera settings. Aperture 4.0, 1/50 shutter speed, ISO at 200. And the light output at only 25% of the peak brightness. So you can decide for yourself if it's bright enough, but I think it's pretty decent. You know, I wouldn't really make the video with this kind of lighting. For some scenes, you might want to use that. The cool feature about having this dimmable light, you can use it just like an ambient light in your room, and this gives you a lot of light to work on the computer, to just have a light in your room, and you don't have to use it at a peak brightness, so it's really good. From my personal experience, when I'm using it on the computer, I always got this light on and I set the brightness to about 30-35%. This gives me just enough light to work. You can freely read, your eyes don't get tired on the computers, so it's enough light in the room, but yet it's not too bright. So actually this light serves a dual purpose. You can use it as a video light for recording your videos, as well as just like regular light in your room to create ambient lighting. And actually you can use it when you're building something, when you're working. If you're doing any construction indoors, this light works great because it gives you a lot of soft lighting. If you set it at 100%, it's just super bright and it lets you see all the fine details. It's just so much better to work when you're building something. It's not flickering. It's a great light for construction, though it's really expensive for that purpose. But you know, if you already have it, you might as well use it. All right, guys, don't be scared. I just got this light set at a 1%, and I actually want to show you how using this remote we can change the light from 1% to 100 and how much it changes. So right now we're at a 1%, and I'm gonna be changing it 10%. So now you're looking at the 10% brightness, the camera settings stay the same, aperture 4.0, 1/50 shutter speed, and 200 ISO. Now we're at the 20%. 30%. Now this is 40%. Now we're at a 50%. This is 60%. 70%. 80%. This is 90%. And here we go, this is 100% right now. So this is how bright it is. And when I'm making my videos, I always use it at 100%, which gives me perfect lighting. And when I'm making this video right now, I can see that it gives me perfect exposure. It's just right in the middle between too dark and too bright. So I do get a perfect exposure with 100% light. Just having one of these lights. I don't need anything else right now. So let's go ahead and compare it with SL60W, see how it performed, and we're gonna compare it side by side. So it's gonna be pretty interesting. And then we're gonna be comparing it to the previous budget lighting kit, which was two 500 watt CFL bulbs, and then of course the first budget lighting kit, the cheapest one, versus two 200 watt CFL light bulbs. So we're gonna see what difference it makes. Plus, I'm gonna make a little sum up of pricing, and then you can decide, see if it's worth upgrading or not to this kit. So let's go ahead and check it out versus Godox SL60W.
Okay, so this is how it looks at the exact same settings. We got the aperture of f4.0, 1/50 shutter speed, and the ISO of 200. As you can see, the Godox SL60W got a little bit darker image than the Godox SL150 Mark II. It is still pretty bright and we get in a pretty decent picture. If we raise the ISO to 400, it will be just perfect. But as you can see to the left, where we got the Godox SL150 Mark II, this light is way brighter and we get in perfect exposure at ISO 200, introducing lower grain and better picture quality.
And now we're going to be comparing it versus the two 500 watt CFL light bulbs. Let's do this.
There we go. So this is how it looks versus the two 500 watt CFL light bulbs. As you can see, the image is much darker than even the Godox SL60W. And using 200 ISO in this case, the footage would be unusable, so you cannot even use it. But on another hand, if you raise up the ISO to 800, it looks pretty identical to the LED light in brightness. But as you can still see, the quality of the light is not there and the color representation is different. This is what CRI is responsible for, to represent the proper colors, and the more expensive light you get, it represents the colors more accurately. For example, when you're shooting with the sunlight, it represents the best colors you can get, but indoors you need to have some artificial lighting, and usually the regular light bulbs in the room, they have a very low CRI, which stands for the color rendering index, and it is a quantitative measure that assures how accurately a light source reveals the colors of objects compared to a reference light source. And the higher the number, the better it is. But nevertheless, if you're on a budget, it's still a great option. It only costs about $160 to get the whole package. And if you want to see a full review about this light, I'm going to put a link in the description, so check it out. But overall, if you're okay with using about 800 ISO and regular 4.0 aperture, 1/50 shutter speed, it is not bad at all. If you have faster lenses, for example 2.8 or 1.8, then you might be able to drop your ISO to about 400, which is still going to be pretty decent and you're going to get a pretty good picture quality.
And of course, the last and the cheapest budget lighting kit. So we're gonna try it versus the two 200-watt CFL light bulbs. Let's do this.
All right, there we go. So as you can see, the picture to the right is going to be the two 200-watt CFL light bulbs, and the picture to the left is going to be from our Godox SL150 Mark II. So just looking at these pictures, you can tell that they're not comparable at all. Using the exact same settings, aperture 4.0, 1/50 shutter speed, 200 ISO, the image quality is not comparable at all. It's too dark. And to get decent picture quality, you would need to bump up the ISO to about 1600, which is too much because you're gonna get a lot of grain in the picture and the picture won't be looking very good. But on another hand, if you're on a budget, this could very well be your first budget lighting kit, which only costs $80, and then you can upgrade to the more sophisticated lighting kits. But now that you've seen the results, I'll let you judge whether you think it's worth spending extra money to actually buy a more professional lighting kit, or if you're okay with sticking to the more budget-friendly lighting kits.
So yeah, it comes with this beautiful remote, and it is 100% the same as the previous remote that I showed in the Godox SL60W. It has exact same buttons here. You can see it has a power button, it has a channel button that you can choose between different channels. You got a plus and minus button to decrease or increase the brightness or change the channels, and you also have the set button as well. So yeah, this is just a pretty simple. It has a small LCD display, so it's easy to read. It doesn't have any backlight, so if it's really dark, you're not gonna see it, but since you got this light, you don't have to worry about the backlight on the display. The only difference I find between these two remotes, this one has a 2.4G and this one's just a regular one. So as you can see, they're pretty much identical in size. They have the same amount of buttons. They have the same size LCD display. The only difference is this is a RC-A6 for the new Godox SL150W. And this is RC-A5. So they have pretty much the exact same features, nothing really different. And they both work great. So as you can see, the difference between 4 different types of budget lighting kit. And of course, as expected, the more expensive ones works way better. But I hope this video will help you decide if it's worth upgrading for you. From my experience, I would recommend starting with the Godox SL60W. It really works great. It gives you enough light. It gives you a lot of control of lighting too, so you can get control of your picture. Plus, it's very compact. You can move it around. It gives you really good light quality. You can control it with a remote, so it really works great. But the thing is, like I said, you know, you have to spend more money versus the cheaper ones. So if you're really on a budget, you can just go ahead and get a regular translucent umbrellas and they just work fine. And then when you're ready, you can go ahead and buy an LED light. But of course, to further improve your lighting, you can use different light sources. For example, this is called your key light. This is the main light that light up your subject. In this case, it's me. So it's lighting up my face from one side. This side is a little bit darker. This side is brighter. This is called the key light. You can use another light that's going to be called a hair light, or it's going to be called a backlight. Usually put it in the background. And for this purpose, you can use just a small regular lamp just to light up the background. It's going to separate you from the background, and you're going to be standing out from the picture much more. So if you have that option, this is going to make your videos look even more professional. Also, you can use some RGB lighting. For example, you can use some LED RGB lighting. That's just going to create some sort of atmosphere, you know, like you can use like a red color, you can use blue, green, whatever you like. I do have another light, and actually I'm going to turn it on right now. It just light up my shelf there. And as you can see, if you like this video, don't forget to smash the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, we're gonna have a lot more cool videos coming out soon, so make sure you don't miss those. And smash the notification bell so you don't miss those videos. So yeah, as you can see, it gives a little bit of light. You can use different types of LED lighting. You can use like LED RGB strips. You can use portable LED RGB lights. There's a huge variety of them. I'm gonna have more lighting examples soon on my channel, and I'm actually thinking to get an RGB LED strip. So this blue light doesn't really add to my light, but it does separate me better from the backgrounds because the background is light up and you can see myself standing out a little bit more from the background. And this makes your video look even more cinematic. So I hope you guys like this video. This was a comparison between the Godox SL150 Mark II versus Godox SL60W versus two 500 watt CFL light bulbs and versus two 200 watt CFL light bulbs. I hope you guys find this video interesting and helpful. It will help you decide which budget lighting kit is suitable for you at this moment. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. I'll be really happy to read them and answer your questions. So don't hesitate to leave them in the comment section. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, smash the notification bell, smash that like button, and I'll see you guys soon. Have a good day. Bye bye.